person beside you.
Good evening. My name is Theodis Pace. I'm president of the Kankakee County branch of the NAACP. This evening, we have the opportunity to listen to the 79th state representative Democratic primary candidates for the election. It's in June, on the June ballot, to hear their views about their respective platforms. Note that we are on Zoom and Facebook Live this evening, and the audience will have a variety of places where they'll have the opportunity to ask questions. Also, we'd like to thank Mr. Steve Bertrand, Executive Director of the Kankakee Public Library staff. And also this evening, we want to remind everyone to turn off all personal electronic devices. This event is organized by the Kankakee Branch NAACP Political Action Committee. The purpose of our forum is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government. The NAACP is nonpartisan and a volunteer-driven organization. Membership is open to anyone. Please consider joining the branch. In the interest of time, please hold applauses at the end of the event. Bear in mind that we may not have time for all questions. The timer for the evening is Mr. Jess Gathering, second vice president, and we will hold up cards regarding minutes, time left, 30 seconds, and the red card will mean stop. The format of this evening is as follows. There's an opening statement by both candidates, Ms. Sloan and Mr. Snipes, of 3 minutes, questions from the audience, and the panelists would be 90 seconds. Our panelists for this evening is Erica Corona, Mr. Lee Provost, Ms. Tremise Lee, and Mr. Ben Clark. And we're going to start with Mr. Snipes with his 3-minute opening statement.
First of all, thank you to the NAACP for hosting this event, and for those of you all in the audience that's for attending this event. I am Robert Ellington Snipes. I am no stranger to Kankakee. I've been here for since 1972. I'm a graduate of Mo Miss High School. Prior to that, I was born in Cook County. I was raised there to the age of 12. Come out of the Robert Taylor Homes in Chicago. My mother graduated summa cum laude, and then we moved into our own home. 1 year later, she died, and I was transplanted to the 60-acre farm in Moments. From there, I learned a lot of things I would not have learned in the city of Chicago. Met a lot of good people, learned a lot of values. My father was a World War II veteran. That added a lot to our work ethics in Kankakee. I'm a member of the AFT-IFT, which is the American Federation Teachers Union, the Illinois Federation of Teachers, Local 604. We're about, I believe, 11,000 strong at this present stage. I see a 79th district in Illinois where constituents can see change and not hear about it, where we can foster a community that will work together. My job is to get you information. My job at the 79th district is to advocate for change and then get that information into the respective communities from Kankakee County, Will County, and portions of Cook County in the Park District, the Park Forest and the Richland Park area. I am no stranger to fighting on behalf of people. I've been doing that all of my life. So, as I always tell people, if you come into the city of Kankakee or the county of Kankakee and you don't know the name Robert Ellington Snipes, you either just moved here or it's a ruffle sniff skin type effect. Simply put, I just want to be your 79th District Representative in the Illinois General Assembly, and I humbly ask for your vote on Tuesday, June 28th. I want to advocate as your leader for our counties across this 79th District, the newly redistricting. I hope to see many of you and your communities in the upcoming weeks. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, visit my website at www.electellingtonsnipes.com. And if you still believe in the old school ways to communicate, pick up a phone, 815-401-1414. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sloan.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Kankakee County NAACP for hosting today's forum, as well as everyone in the audience who is joining us today, also online. Your desire to be an informed voter is the exact kind of engagement we need in the democratic process. We've seen the last couple of years have been very divided across our country, in our state, and across our district. The 79th District comprises suburban, rural, and urban communities with varying individual needs. However, there are many issues we have in common that need to be addressed. Homeowners from Park Forest to Bourbonnais need property tax relief. Parents from Richton Park to Kankakee demand excellent schools. Residents from Monee to Bradley deserve safe streets. And the residents of University Park to Braidwood should have access to safe and reliable drinking water. The needs of the district are just as important as the needs of those who live in Chicago or on the North Shore. I will be the person who will fight to ensure our issues are well represented in Springfield and we receive an equitable distribution of resources for healthcare and mental health services, for our infrastructure, for dollars for our schools. It's important that we lay the foundation for economic development and jobs that pay a living wage in our district. On behalf of all Illinoisans, I will fight to protect a woman's right to make any and all decisions about her body, for the criminal justice reform that we've been demanding for decades, and for the future of our youth. I'm running as a Democrat for Illinois State Representative because I see a brighter future for the 79th District. I currently serve as village trustee in Park Forest and have over 20 years of experience as a municipal finance banker and business consultant, serving clients across the country. These broad and varying experiences have given me the ability to identify opportunities, to build multidisciplinary teams, and develop and execute strategic plans. I'm dedicated to listening to and empowering stakeholders across the district to engage in civil, collaborative partnership across the region, the state, so we can get sustainable solutions. All of this is to ensure the 79th District is well positioned for both prosperity and long-term growth. I'm excited to be here, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, both of you, for your opening statements. Now we're at the segment where our panel will be asking questions. You have 90 seconds. We're going to start with you, Ms. Sloan.
Yes.
Ms. Camarina. Ms. Camarina is a social worker at Clovet Alliance.
Hi.
Please tell us about your civic work in the last 2 years, whether it is legislation you've sponsored or work you have done in other ways to improve your community.
I've been even when I was a banker working 60 hours a week, I was still volunteering in my community. Two of the issues that have been near and dear to my heart is homelessness and food insecurity. So for the last 2 years in my community, well, prior to COVID, we definitely had to cut back some of the services for the homelessness. But I have volunteered to be on staff for a couple of the homeless shelters, being there overnight, preparing meals and lunches prior to folks going off to their next destination. And then also for the food insecurity, working with a number of food pantries from the north side of Chicago to the community, Park Forest, where I live. This isn't a fly-by-night thing. I'm not a career politician, but I am a career servant when it comes to my community.
Thank you. Mr. Snipes.
So you basically asked me what public service have I done?
Yeah, within the last 2 years, whether that's through legislation or just working in the community.
Okay, I currently serve on the Kankakee County Community Services as the president of the board. That deals with a lot of the funding that the CDSBG, the LIHEAP programs, that's pertinent to the poor and dispossessed and those individuals that need to be empowered from poverty to at least a level of sustainability. I also serve on the Kankakee County Housing Authority board for 5 years, ending soon, and the Development Board. We look forward to revamping the harbor area, moving from what we call projects to what we consider to be a home mentality. I have the most recent, I guess, notable event was getting the legislation passed for the Haley Lemonade law that's now in Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Snake. Mr. Provost is a reporter for the Daily Journal. He had the question, and the question is to Mr. Snipes.
Thank you. Illinois continues to lose population, mainly to our Midwest neighbors. Give 2 initiatives which you would bring forth to stop this population exodus.
One of the first things I would basically do is we would have to revamp Illinois. I believe the governor is on the right track as far as the infrastructure is concerned and the rebuilding of Illinois. I also believe that we need to build a performance-based budget system for the size of the state of Illinois, which operates on a line item budget. This is a challenge, but I think we need to also do a forensic audit. We need to look at services that are in Illinois that are just laying dormant or just non-working, but yet up on the payrolls. There's a myriad of things that we need to do, but we also have to instill in the people, you have a responsibility in government. Certainly, as has been said, people demand services, but when you ask them, do you want to pay extra taxes for those services, you get a different answer. So I believe that there must be a balance between the two. But when I come into office, those are probably the 2 of the things that I will be doing.
Thank you. Ms. Sloan?
I definitely have a different approach. Illinois, let's take my community, for instance, the village of Park Forest, a place of 22,000 people. We have the highest property tax rate in the state. And because of that, we are unable to encourage any economic development in our community. And this issue is taking place across the state of Illinois. The first thing that I would want to approach is the way our schools are funded. The state of Illinois in our Constitution says that it would fund 50% of the education costs. However, they've come quite short of that. In most of our communities, your property tax bill pays for at least 50% of your property taxes. What I've mentioned in Park Forest is something that's also happening here in the city of Kankakee, having the highest property tax rate in the county. So I would want to approach how we are actually funding our schools and taking the burden off of the backs of homeowners. Secondly, when that's able to be done, then you would have larger businesses and commercial property tax, commercial businesses that would have a larger portion of the property tax, encourage them to come in now that they can actually afford to pay people a living wage here in the state of Illinois. Folks are going to places like Indiana and Wisconsin where their property taxes are quite lower and the way they fund education is different. I think those 2 go hand in hand, and that would be what the majority of my focus would be on.
Thank you. Ms. Lee, Administrator Aunt Martha, have the next question, and the question is to Ms. Sloan.
Being that we are talking about reforming criminal legislation reformation, do you believe that felons have a right to fair housing, and how would you implement that change in policy for returning citizens?
When you go to prison and you serve your time, you should be able to have the slate wiped clean. I do believe that felons should be able to re-enter the community, having paid their time, and to live in a safe housing with dignity. I think that's a word that we need to remember time and time again. Regardless of what you did before, we all have the right to live and work in dignity. And for the returning population, it's not just housing. Also, we're seeing discrimination when it comes to employment as well. To ease some of the burdens or the hoops that people have to jump through who just want a second chance to actually, have that American dream and to be able to earn a good living and to be able to live in a safe environment.
Mrs. Snipes?
Your question referred to?
Returning citizens and their opportunity for fair housing.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you're saying the returning the citizens, you're talking about the individuals that's transitioning from the prisons into your community?
Yes.
Okay. I think there's some things in place. The problem is that we have programs in place, but we don't have them properly funded or not funded at all. You have a reentry program that's in Kankakee, but the funding is not up to par. When you're looking at the recidivist rate, you do have to have some tiers in place when it comes to bringing individuals back. You have to understand that if you spent 3 or 5 years in prison, you probably can matriculate back into this society. However, if you've been out 20 years or 25, this whole world is totally different. So we have to put some things in place. We have to have some reentry programs that will also provide mental health services, job support, so that they can be successful. And depending upon the age, we need to not discriminate in certain buildings where they can now live. If they're like 55 and older, we have high rises and things they can apply for. But there are some discrimination barriers in that area because certain people don't want people living around them. So I will work on the reentry program, to lower the recidivist rate so that they can transition back into what we call the mainstream society.
Thank you. Mr. Ben Clark, community activist, you have the question. The question is to Mr. Robert Snipes.
So, as we all know, Illinois is facing a serious pension crisis at the state level. What are your plans to handle this crisis?
My plan to handle the crisis is to continue erode the deficit. I think the governor has addressed that in his $1.83 million budget. It's a start. It's not going to go away anytime soon because of $100 billion that's in the backlog. There's some serious accounting analogies that or strategies that would have to put in place to kind of remedy the situation. But any legislation that comes through that can help chime away at the budget and to sustain our, like IMRF, the TRS, the teachers' retirement system, and the others that are there, I wear a badge to that to this day. So anything that can make it better, I am a proponent of, as far as legislation is concerned.
Thank you.
What we've seen in the last 2 years with our budget and having the surplus, whatever surplus has been available has been applied to the pension deficit. That is a proactive approach. You know, there are a few things that we can do in the state of Illinois. The fact that we had the graduated tax that that was trying to be passed previously, that the new income that would have been produced would have been an option to help pay down some of the pension obligations. We have to remember that those who work for our public entities, for our governments, you know, the job that they're doing is at say basically a discount to what you would have in the private market. And the fact that the people have worked hard to make sure that our state and our services are provided for, we need to honor those obligations. However, we need to be very smart when it comes to our approaches to issuing pension obligation bonds, to make sure that whatever those funds are invested in are funds that are actually producing, that it is not based strictly on the volatility of the market. That is something that we have seen in the past that they don't perform as well. But I think the approach to bringing in more income and whatever surplus that we have, that we apply it to knock it down. That's where we have seen the upgrades in the state's bond ratings has been for the use of the funds to do that, to apply to the pension obligations.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. You have another question. The question is to Ms. Sloan.
So this question came from the audience. With the upcoming Supreme Court ruling on Roe v. Wade, will you vote to protect a woman's right to choose?
I most certainly will protect a woman's right to choose. I'm proud to say that I'm endorsed by Planned Parenthood and Personal PAC. When you had Roe v. Wade, the introduction of Roe v. Wade was the first time that we had any kind of legislation to assure gender equality. We get caught up on abortion, and if you look at the language in that leaked opinion, you saw that they said, well, privacy isn't mentioned in the Constitution. Well, neither are Black people. Neither are women. So the fact that when we had Roe v. Wade was passed, women were then allowed to get a credit card not in their husband's names. They were allowed to have credit. Women were allowed to actually have a contraception. If we roll this back, we will see a slippery slope happening of people who are in some of the worst situations ever. There's ectopic pregnancy where you would need to have an abortion, they call it a DNT, to save the woman's life. You have issues when women have been raped, when children have been raped. What are you going to do? You're going to force a 13-year-old to have her rapist babies? That also opens up a slippery slope of a bunch of other rights that came along with Roe v. Wade. So I will most certainly, with all my power, protect the woman's right to choose.
Mr. Snipes.
I am a pro-life. I believe in pro-life. I believe that a woman's right to choose should not be a bridge, but I also think that it should come with responsibility, because the moment that you accept a sperm from a man, we're not talking in a case of rape and incest, but there has to be some responsibility. You accept a sperm from a man, you're actually initiating a contract, which means he should have a say in that clause. Now, if you're saying, or in that situation, I'm a proponent that you should not engage in anything that will cause you to have someone else to make a decision. But for the purpose of Roe versus Wade, I am also a proponent that that woman has to answer to God and not Snipes. So as a result, she retains the right to make the decision for her body. But there are some issues that I think that needs to be addressed. And if you're going to have sex, outside of this rape and marriage, let's use some precaution. There's Walmart, Kmart, any other kind of mart you can go to pick up some condoms or whatever it is that they want to put into the women. Well, you don't have to have this. So some of this expense that bears upon the taxpayers, we need to also insert some common sense.
There's no expense to taxpayers.
Miss, we all know this is a very hot topic throughout these United States. The governor signed the We Trust Women bill back in June of 2019. Mr. Snipes, and then we'll go to Ms. Sloan, and we're going to give each one of you another minute to expound on this particular topic. So if elected, how would you further enforce the signing of the We Trust Women bill that the governor signed in June of 2019? I
kind of cringe when I say we trust women. I cringe at the topic because I've always trusted women. They made decisions to have me when I was born. But speaking to the title, I support, again.
Where it's talking about the signing of abortion and the right with women's rights. So
then, yes, we continue to support women's rights. That's part of human rights. I think when we get to the point that we start putting everybody on the equal playing field, we won't have all the sidebar acts that we have to implement to basically bring them to equality. So in my case, I will support anything that deals with the women's rights or to elevate their decision. I don't think we should ever bridge that.
Ms. Salone.
We trust women it's more than just, we trust women to make the decisions that most affect them. You know, the fact that we have if you look at the poverty rates in America, it's women and children. And if there is a contract between a man and a woman, where is the man when all of these women and these children are wondering where are they going to get their next meal, wondering if trying to put two pennies together to pay for a rent that you can, dealing with eviction. Where are the men in that? So if in the We Trust Women, I wholly, this is something since I was a little girl that I understood that when it comes to my body and the decisions that I have to make that a man will never, ever experience. I wish I had the benefit of a man to say, well, you accepted my sperm. Well, you also accepted my trust, and men have abandoned women time and time again with babies that they cannot take care of either. So when We Trust Women, I would be in full support of supporting a system where women can make the determinations what's best for them and their families.
Thank you. Ms. Lee, you have the next question and questions to Mr. Snipes.
You said it was 1 minute.
I started with you, Mr.
No,
Snipes.
you said we were going to speak and then have 1 minute to respond.
1 minute to respond to the one you guys just finished.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And so you responded.
Ms. Lee, you have the question to Mr. Snipes.
Okay.
What changes, being that we're in a state of mental health crisis, what changes would you like to see implemented to assist constituents that have Medicare and Medicaid or no insurance to have more access to mental health services?
That's to me first?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If they have insurance, there is already built in, matter of fact, at no cost to you, mental health, the ability to seek mental health services. If you are up in the public aid sector, which they basically have they shop out the insurances, they have those built in as well. The process is getting them to use the service that's already available in certain cases. Now, in situations where they have none, you're saying in Medicare or Medicaid or wherever, there are programs that are available right now through even the community service agencies that basically helps to address those particular issues. What areas of mental health is that needs to be addressed is where the dollars and things that should be allocated, directly allocated to, deals with on a case-by-case basis, because again, with the recidivist rate, they need mental health services. In the courts, with some of the domestic violence, they definitely need mental health. There are services and grants that are now built in, even with the offices like Jim Rowe, that the courts ask them to seek for our veterans. There are services available. So I would suggest that we continue to build upon those services that are at no cost to the individual.
Sloan.
I would love to live in that world, but we have a shortage of services available for people. Even if you have insurance, the time that it takes for you to actually get an appointment with a mental health professional, we're talking weeks. I know someone who is diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and she was on Medicaid, and she could not get in to get a refill on her life-saving medication. It was more than a 6-month wait. And so by that point, she would have been in crisis. We have, it's estimated that 40% of the people in our justice system, in the Department of Corrections, has some sort of mental health diagnosis. Oftentimes, it's not until they get into the prison system that they are actually seen by a professional. We have our children that are getting caught up in the criminal justice system that have seen ungodly trauma, and instead of throwing them away into the system, we should be screening these kids for any sort of trauma so they can get on the path to healing sooner, that they don't have to wind up until they're in the county jail system or in prison to actually receive it. So we need to increase the funding for and get more service providers that will see Medicaid and Medicare patients, as well as those that are insured. What we've seen now with our balanced budget is that the state of Illinois is actually paying its bills on time. So there are a number of people who did see our indigent population, but they weren't getting paid. They too need to be able to keep the lights on. And so making sure that we have a balanced budget, that we have an appropriate money set aside, that people can actually get paid so they can see our population.
Thank you. Mr. Provost, you have a question. Questions to Ms. Sloan.
Okay. Illinois has the 5th highest gas tax nationally at 39.2 cents per gallon, which took place in 2019. The state's per gallon gas cost as of Monday was $4.83, which ranks well above the national average of $4.48 per gallon. What can be done to lessen the burden on Illinois drivers?
Well, the governor has just put a freeze on that increase in the gas tax. You know, we do pay for our infrastructure through the motor fuel tax that is attached to. That is a part of that 39.2%. And those monies go to our local municipalities to pay for their road projects. We need to decrease our dependency on our fossil fuels. There are a number of programs that have come across for electric vehicle usage and converting having new school buses that are actually electric vehicles to help ease that burden. This is impacting our farmers, folks just getting to and from their jobs. I think also the expansion of transportation, of public transportation. It is something that does save on the gas that you actually have to pay for. And that $4.83 was still cheaper than what I paid yesterday at the pump. My sister is in California, and they're paying almost $5.50, sometimes $6 for the gas. And we don't want to be in California, where we again tax our middle class and our working folks that are trying to just make a living. So I think giving some relief with the governor's freezing of that increase on the motor fuel tax, but we need to look at alternative sources to power our vehicles.
Thank you. Mr. Snipes.
Certainly the governor has looked at and moved with action to alleviate some of the burden, but that even eliminating 19 cents can be a savings into your pockets. But what can we do? What we need to do is we need to go back to the common sense approach. We need to go back to the time when, remember, gas was 99 cents a gallon. When it went to $1.30-something, people started carpooling. We have bus services here in Kankakee. what does it cost you, $1 to get up on the bus? We have to start conserving energy, because the more we buy, the more it's going to cost us. The more that you just drive around leisurely, the more it's going to cost. We have to start conserving here in the United States. We have to start looking at more constructive ways in order to save the dollar and utilize some of the buses that I see is empty. Even going to Midway, it's only $2. But if I was to drive it in my car, that would probably be $42. So what we're looking at is what are ways that that the people can take a responsibility and say, how can we resolve this issue? If we begin to carpool, if we begin to, or not use 4 or 5 cars, everybody get down to just maybe 1 or 2, I think we'll be moving in the right direction. We'll save energy. We can now put pressure on the other countries who are just grabbing our dollars by leaps and bounds because we just keep going to the pump. We can start making more of a dent in their budget, and it'll be a cost savings in our budget.
Thank you. Ms. Camarina, you have the question. The question is to Mr. Snipes.
A revised school funding formula was approved this year by the legislature and the governor, but a bipartisan commission has concluded $1 billion more are needed to achieve sufficient equitable funding. Should Illinois spend more money on schools, and where would that money come from?
Illinois has spent more money on schools. And since Governor Pritzker has been in there, he has pumped money into the schools, into school programs, into after-school programs, into support school programs. Yes, you can keep putting monies and throwing monies into education, but when you keep asking, should they put more money in, I think at some point in time we need to weigh. We have to come to the balance of scales and say, what would be sufficient to meet the needs without getting into the area of the greed? We need to focus on when we as taxpayers saying we want more money for our schools, who's going to pay for it? The property tax owners. The state of Illinois does. I mean, they pay a share, but the property owners, the tax is. She just spoke about the property tax elevating. If you put more billions of dollars into that, you're talking about raising the property, and they want property tax relief. So the only way that I can see them putting more than what they have is for them to utilize what they have efficiently.
As I previously said, the state of Illinois has a constitutional obligation to fund 50% of the school costs. With the new formula, we also see the need for the evidence-based formula, where those schools that need more money, those that are underperforming, which is oftentimes our inner city schools, our schools and our rural schools, that they don't have the same property tax values that you would find, let's say, in Lake Forest, Illinois, or Naperville, the very affluent areas. We need to invest in our schools. I think first it comes with changing the formula, even more than what the legislature has already done. I talked about increasing the revenue. If we were to institute the graduated income tax would be helpful. But it's still insufficient. There's at least another $350 million that we need to fund to bring our kids on a level footing. What we have right now, a lot of the increase in the costs actually go to pay the teachers' pensions and for some of the building upkeep. But we have to invest in our actual students' learning so they can be competitive with the rest of the world, with the new jobs that are coming online. And it's hard to do that when you have antiquated books or you don't even have computers or internet in the school. So, yeah, we most certainly need to fund more.
Thank you. The Kankakee branch of the NAACP has been meeting with law enforcement, Ms. Sloan and Mr. Snipes, since August of 2014 with the rioting in Ferguson, Missouri. Every other month, we meet with all law enforcement, and I'm sure I have communicated with both you guys the NAACP view of Senate Bill 3653. So we're talking about police reform. So we know there's a number of trailer bills that's been attached to this. So when elected, how would you, again, go about looking at some of the currently language in that particular bill?
I believe the Safety Act that you're referring to, it started the conversation in the legislature that the NAACP has been working on for some time. And the idea is to improve the trust and the accountability between the police and the people that they serve. The bill was not perfect at all. And thank goodness for trailer bills. And you find that with all sorts of legislation, but it started the conversation. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of partisan rhetoric that says that it is anti-police or it is a defund the police, when actually it's further from the truth. The idea of, just like you have for doctors or lawyers, we all have codes of conduct that we must follow, that we must sign. And it should be just as important for the law enforcement community, where you say not all police are bad. I believe that. I come from a law enforcement family, but my uncles and my cousins were the first to tell me that the system is not fair. When I see blue and red lights in my window, especially when I was first starting out driving as a kid, I was scared out of my mind because I knew of what could happen. So having, and we've seen that at least almost 1,000 people a year lose their life as law enforcement. So the fact that we can weed out and we can hold folks accountable, not only just the police, but also the community. In that act, we had a number of services for folks that are victims of crime. There was funding in there for the mental health and the training of police officers on de-escalation and how to eliminate the chokehold and how to use the body-worn cameras, which at one time were very taboo in the law enforcement community, but we've seen that it holds everybody accountable to what happened. So I would continue to work on that trailer bill. On those trailer bills to help strengthen it, to make sure that it serves the entire community, the state of Illinois, well, and improve that trust.
Mr. Snipes, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, briefly state your question again.
Mr. Snipes, Senate Bill 3653 needs some reform to it, even though it is a police reform bill. So if elected, what will you do with some of the trailer bills that is currently being offered?
Okay, that bill also deals not only with the police, it deals with law, it deals with deals with the judicial system as well. The first thing I would look at changing is, not changing, but amending is 725 ILC 5110-6-.1. This one says, if the court enters an order for the detention of a defendant, basically lets them go. What happens in that situation is they have 90 days. And if they are domestic violence, if they are a sexual predator, if they are a felon, that person walks. And so therefore it becomes a threat into things. So we have to go in. The bill started out with the Black Caucus. I understand it was great. The sheriff and the city police chimed in on this. However, just like with any bill, when other legislators start putting things up in it, it tends to wreak havoc to that bill. That portion of that bill needs to be amended so that it addresses the misdemeanors or the nonviolent criminals versus letting anyone just simply walk out within 90 days. They're not going to be able to bring them to trial. And the safeguard in that is they have the right to a speedy trial if they're incarcerated within 120 days. So with that particular bill, I would definitely save the good parts, but I would definitely have to closely examine those issues that are adverse, not only to the police, but to the entire judicial system as well. Because the judges and the police and the state's attorney and others are on a cringe bench with some of the new bills.
Okay. Ms. Carmarina, you have the next question, and Ms. Sloan, you're going to have an additional 30 seconds. But Mr. Snipes, I'm saying, so most individuals in this state have some idea of Senate Bill 36. My question again is, if elected, what will you do to ensure that those issues that, let's say, the state conference of branches of the NAACP across the state have issues as we advocate on those individuals' behalf? So what will you do to address some of the issues that the NAACP have with 3653?
And again, I just stated, I will look at when I look at the bill, we will save the portion that everyone's agreeable upon, but those portions that need to be amended, we need to address those. I think it's a step in the right direction when most of law enforcement has adopted the 10 shared principles. I think when the NAACP goes in with the Black Caucus and when they're trying to tailor that bill, I think you need to have a voice at the table in Springfield. And if I'm there, that allowing you, the stakeholders, to have conversations at that table so that the bill can be refined so that it's workable. That's what the job of the representative and the Senate is in the General Assembly.
So again, as an advocate and a president of a branch in the state of Illinois, this branch have 3 initiatives, Ms. Sloan, Ms. Snipes. One is to advocate and to address items such as House Bill 3653. We have an initiative of Kankakee County Crisis Response Team. You just mentioned the 10 shared principles and our meeting that we have with all law enforcement to deal with training, culture diversity classes, all of those sensitivity to ensure that's what's happening in Cleveland, New York, does not happen here. So that's why it's such a issue that we make sure we get 3653 right. And so you have a minute.
All right. Thank you. The idea of getting the bill right is important. It went through, pretty quickly. A lot of it was in response to the issues that we were seeing in the city of Chicago, the unrest that we saw in the city of Chicago, and the notorious, behavior of some of the police, where we've seen a number of people that were incarcerated unjustly, or that you also had people that were actually killed at the hands of the police. It's important now with these trailer bills that the Sheriff's Association and others have been at the table with the Black Caucus and other Dems to help strengthen this bill. It's important for any kind of legislation, including those that are based with labor, that you have the important stakeholders at the table, that it's not made that the legislation isn't written in a vacuum. So being able to sit down with the NAACP, with others, I think one of the biggest issues that we have is the idea of timing when these agencies are supposed to comply with some of the schedules. It was very aggressive. A lot of it included money that folks don't have right now when it comes to the technology that's needed to review and download all of the body cam footage. When you're talking about, the right to a speedy trial, well, we don't have enough capacity in our crime labs at this point for them to process all of the forensics that's done. I think that's something that needs to be tacked on as well in legislation, of finding funding that's appropriate so we can have these speedy trials. So you don't have to worry about, is this person guilty or is this person not guilty, but that you have the irrefutable evidence that's there. I think also the idea of how do we use electronic monitoring? Do we charge the parents of youth these fees for electronic monitoring? Those are issues that are here. I am in support of the cashless bail system. It puts more of the discretion into the hands of the judges to actually keep people in jail versus having them there just because they have retail theft, but they're wasting away in the jail because they were trying to steal for groceries versus someone stealing for a car in carjacking.
Thank you. Ms. Camarina, you have the question, and questions to Ms. Sloan.
Do you support a path to citizenship for immigrants who are in the United States illegally?
Yes. I've gone to school with a number of kids. You know, when people think of DACA or the Dreamer Act, they only see one face. I know people who are from Canada, folks from Lithuania, from Mexico, Guatemala, Haiti, India. This is the culture, the face of folks that are coming to America, especially as children, that had of no, it was not their fault or their responsibility here, but they are hardworking folks. There's people that I went to high school with that it wasn't until we went to go to college and they realized that they didn't have the funds to go to school to live their lifelong dream of being a teacher and engineer. America, we do not have the population to support the growth that we need to maintain our gross domestic product. Period, point blank. We do not want to be a place like Germany or France where we see our economy going backwards because we don't have people who want to be here that actually work. I think that we need to make the system one that people can apply for asylum, that they can actually, again, it's a thing about dignity. Folks, they're not criminals. People are running away from, I have friends from El Salvador, and when they came over in the 80s, you know, we're talking about bloodbath in the streets. People just want an opportunity to live that American dream, and I do think we should have a path to citizenship.
Thank you. Mr. Snipes?
I do believe that we should have a path for immigrants to come, and we do have, if they follow the process. The issue is the disparity in the process. Do we cater to one and be unfair to another? America has, the United States of America has a process in place. Immigration, I don't like putting titles on people, but the immigration process through the U.S. is you come in, you apply, and you can obtain. And if we just let anybody and everybody just come over without any safeguards for the borders or the American people that's here, the United States of American people, there would be a shift of individuals who just open our doors and let anybody come. We can't do that. We have to have a process in place. Similar to when I went to Italy, I knew when I went to Italy, I had to have a passport, and then I had to study a few of their little laws to know what to do and what not to do. When I went to Mexico, I used to own land there, but I could never own it because I was not a citizen there. So therefore, that was their rules. So the process, there's a process, and I believe fundamentally to be fair to everyone, follow that process, and we need to challenge. If the process has a flaw, that's why we have lobbyists, and that's why we vote to get those individuals to pay attention to our area of interest. But I do believe that we need to continue to improve, but we still have to have a process in place.
Mr. Provost, you have the questions to Mr. Snipes.
Okay. Tell us one thing the majority of the 79th District voters do not know about you.
One thing that the 79th District, since it's all new, let me take into account, because I'm pretty open, but if there's one thing that they probably don't know is that I probably took ballet dances. They know I sing, they know I play the keyboards, they know I preach, they know I do public speaking, and they know I advocate for people. So basically, when I was in karate, my sister was going to Loretta Academy, she had to take me with her, and so therefore, they convinced me that if I took ballet, it would help me with my karate.
Ms. Sloan?
I actually have two. Okay, one, I'm not 12 years old. I've heard that coming around the district that, you know, she's so young. That's just good, clean living. You know, my arthritis will tell you differently. But no, I was an All-American softball player in college. and I traveled the world playing the sport that I loved, and I met amazing people, and I actually competed against like 10 Olympic squads, and I had a hit off of every single one of them, including Team USA and Team Australia.
Ms. Lee, you have the questions to Ms. Sloan.
What is your position on enacting work requirements, volunteering, or financial and family literacy for people that are receiving financial assistance such as SNAP or TANF?
Can you repeat the question?
What is your position on enacting work requirements, volunteering, and financial and family literacy for those that are receiving public assistance?
Well, I think family and financial literacy should be a part of everyone's education. Like when we are in high school, once upon a time we had home economics, and that's where I learned how to balance a checkbook and sew a pillow and make orange Julius, but not to make light of the question. I think for everybody, the idea of volunteering, you get out of it what you put into it, and recognizing at one of the pantries that I worked at, as well as the homeless shelter, where the families that were receiving benefits or receiving groceries, they actually were asked to volunteer. And it was the idea of having that pride of work, of being attached to the process, of not feeling like you're being pitied or taking handouts. But again, it's about that dignity that was given to you, that you too are a valued member of society, and what your work is actually benefiting others. I think it is a good idea for everyone, not just people that are on assistance, but I think for everyone to be able to be involved in their community and to get out of, to put in what they get out of it, I think is a good start.
Mr. Snipes.
Can you repeat that sentence again?
What is your position on enacting work requirements, volunteering, and/or financial and family literacy to those that are receiving public assistance?
I believe, even with the community action agencies, we want to build self-sufficiency from an individual. I believe that sometimes when people are in poverty, it's not what they want to be, it's what they have to be at that given point. But I don't believe that they need a hand out. I believe they need a hand up. And so in that particular case, I strive to do that daily. One of the things I think, one of the things I tell my students is surround yourself around where you want to be, the people that you that are doing what you are doing. And sometimes you have to encourage yourself, lift yourself, but don't ever succumb to the word poverty. I was in poverty. You couldn't get no more poverty being in the projects of Chicago. But my mother saw educational opportunity, and she graduated, became summa cum laude, was on the TV and all of that. But I looked at one thing that she said. She said that my children would outdistance me. I'm glad that she did not say outperform me, because I cannot read 2,500 words a minute. All the stuff that she could do, take care of 8 kids and still be summa cum laude. But she said that they would outdistance me. How do we do that? We continue to each one reach one. If someone's in poverty and we can show them a way out, don't do it for them, but help them to do it. We can change America.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, you have the question, and the questions to Mr. Snipes.
So both of you talked about becoming more energy efficient. So with that, there are plenty of job opportunities that comes with that. What would you do to bring those jobs to the 79th District?
They're already here. They're waiting for people to walk through the doors and even take them. The problem is finding the people to get into those particular positions. We have the solar plants and things that's coming up. Those are jobs that are available here. We have, there's one that's coming up that's, I think it's going to be the largest one in Kankakee County, because generally we just dealt with acres. They're, I think, going into a couple of thousands of acres in order to bring in solar energy. Farmers are some of the farmers are doing it by putting up the wind. They have the wind farms. So what I would do is we will continue to expand, continue to lead individuals in those areas of where they can be what I can see environmental friendly. But even in your house, change the bulbs. Go with the LEDs. And you bring down your energy costs. So there's some things you can just do in your own home to save energy and bring dollars into your house. But outside of that, we want to make sure that they go to KCC, they go down to vet, or they can go to a seminar and learn how to or the WIA. WIA is a good one, where they can go in the workforce program and basically train themselves to be able to walk into these jobs. They're already here.
Thank you. We are actually almost to our closing, and Mr. Snake.
Don't you get a chance to answer that?
I'm sorry. Oh,
Thank you. This is my thing. Okay, so when I was a banker, we actually financed one of the first. It was the first tax exempt bond financing for a renewable energy plant, and actually using cow manure of all things to create methane gas, to harbor the methane gas, scrub it, and put it back into the pipe system. There's an unbelievable amount of technology that's out there, and the fact that where we are located in the 79th district, where we have a number of open land, we've got vacant manufacturing. We also have these rooftops. There's a lot that can be done between urban wind as well as the wind farms that you see with the larger turbines. And as you drive down 57, we have the solar plants, right? It's not so much a plant like you would think of an energy plant, but it could be an add-on. In the village of Park Forest, we actually had put onto our water plant a solar project where it saves our community about $50,000 a year, and then we were able to sell the tax credits to the state of Illinois, so the state of Illinois could get benefits for reducing its carbon emission. There are a number of folks that are looking to relocate into the community. I've actually been in conversations with those that want to manufacture electric bikes, and they're looking for a plant somewhere in this area between the Monee and Eastern Will and here in Kankakee. I've been in discussions with them. There are also a company that is looking to actually retrofit school buses that they are electric power versus diesel power, so that would clean up the air. And with us having the workforce development, as Mr. Snipes mentioned, KCC has it, and there are a number of our apprenticeship programs up and down 57 that would actually tool our workers into how to actually work with electricity and with power. So the opportunities are endless, but that's exactly what we need to do. And the last budget had quite a bit of money set aside for these projects, and we need to take advantage of that and make sure that they locate here in the 79th. But I'm already in discussions with people, and I would do it regardless, because I want to see us thrive.
Thank you. We want to thank our panelists this evening. We want to thank all the audience. We want to thank our timer, our political action committee for putting on this forum. And again, we want to thank both of you candidates for taking time out of your busy schedule. We're down to the closing statements. Mr. Snipes, you started with 3 minutes, ended with Ms. Sloan.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank everyone who came out today and to the panelists for some great questions. I mentioned before that I was raised in the village of Park Forest, and it was a place that taught me that people from different backgrounds and beliefs can work side by side to build something to make future generations proud. I believe the 79th district has that exact same potential. The new 79th district needs a fresh perspective, a creative, forward-thinking, and collaborative leader that can usher in the revival of our region. No one woman or man is going to be the savior of the state or the district or in any individual city or town. It's going to take all of us to engage and do our part by working together. I invite you to visit my website, votesloan.com. That's SLONE.com to learn more about me, what I stand for, and what I'd like to accomplish in the future. I'm proudly endorsed by Senator Dick Durbin, Illinois AFL-CIO, Independent Voters of Illinois Independent Precinct Organization, Planned Parenthood, Personal PAC, and Equality Illinois. It'd be an honor to serve you, and I look forward to engaging with you in the future. I, Aaron Sloan, hope to earn your vote on June 28th. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Mr. Snipes.
Again, thank you all for coming out. I am fighting for the 79th District. I don't have a problem with representing Cook County. I do have a problem with Cook County representing Kankakee, Kankakee and Will County with the small portions of Cook County. Kankakee County and Will County have progressed, but they're tired of the leftovers that we get after Cook County gets their share. I believe that in this day and time, we need a representative that's going to be able to go down to Springfield, be able to look at something. I'm not looking for new laws, but to look at the existing laws and make them better. That's what I basically do. A young lady that's here tonight, I see her to my immediate right. Haley, in which the Haley lemonade law was named after, came to me and said they shut down my lemonade stand. Can you do something? Now, I'm not in the state at this time, but I went to Tori Hutchison. Tori said, if you write the bill, I will put it through. At that time, she became the czar of the marijuana industry, and Senator Patrick Joyce came in. He picked it up. And working together, we were able to pass a law where no little girl that's trying to make money to go to school, her lemonade stand will be shut down, or his lemonade stand, not only in Kankakee, but in the United States. And she was just featured in 2 months of the Scholastics throughout the United States. So I applaud her for taking that stand and being a part of that. That's what your legislators do. I was in an audience once, and a person said, Mr. Snipes, no, she didn't say Mr. Snipes, she just made a statement. She says, all politicians do is lie, beg, and steal. And it got quiet. Well, I said, ma'am, you're right. In order to be a good politician, you gotta lie, you gotta beg, and you gotta steal. And they got even quieter. I said, because as a politician, I had to lay awake at night. I had to lie awake at night going through countless documents so that your life or your quality of life could be sustained or enhanced. I had to beg when your programs were defunded, to get them refunded. And then I have to steal away from times from my family and friends to attend forums and go to potlucks and other fundraisers to help organizations. That's what I have done. That's what I continue to do. I'm Robert Ellington Snipes. Vote June 28th, 3 days after my birthday, for your next 79th District State Representative. Again, thanks for both candidates for taking time out of their schedule. Wish you well on, June 28th. Thanks to the audience, our panelists, and timer, Political Action Committee. Go vote June 28th. Again, thank you. Have a great evening.